The case against Ripple by the United States SEC started 2.5 years ago, so it's certainly been a bit frustrating and slow, but the good news is we're at the end of that journey. And while others in the crypto industry might be at the beginning of that journey, the silver lining for Ripple has been that we're kind of at the end. Sometime, I would say, between the next 2 and let's say 6 months, I expect a resolution. The judge in the United States has been fully briefed. She has the decision on her plate. A federal judge can operate on whatever timeline in this case, she would like. But I'm optimistic we're going to see resolution, I believe, before the end of Q3.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bearable Bull here. And I got this aggressively average content for you today, as we heard that from Garlinghouse, an official time frame from the CEO of Ripple of when he believes a judge decision is coming. Ladies and gentlemen, before I get into anything else, let me say this. I'm very well aware that plenty of people are frustrated hearing timelines and time frames that continuously pass by, and don't happen. But I guarantee all of you, we're doing our absolute best in this community with a number of lawyers, with a number of content creators that are genuinely trying to pinpoint when this could end, because that's an important event. Ripple CEO Garlinghouse stated within the next 2 to 6 months, and he believes especially by the end of Q3 2023. If that is in fact the case, that time frame goes hand in hand with what I believe will be the inevitable financial crisis, and man, what perfect timing will that be. Here guys, all I have to say is this. It is a 110% fact that we're narrowing in on the end of this case. And it's a 110% fact that Gary Gensler, the SEC, is losing a lot of leverage and they are in trouble. Here, Minus Wells Post, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, submitted a brief accusing the SEC of unlawful failing to disclose the classification of digital assets as securities, and asserting that this inaction is resulting in significant economic damage. The SEC's delay is causing great economic harm. And this right here is the brief. This is extremely important, as the U.S. House Financial Committee also gives SEC Chair Gary Gensler an ultimatum to respond to inquiries, as he has stayed silent after going in front of Congress and getting absolutely annihilated. Gary Gensler has no respect for Congress, despite having said in the past that we do need guidance from them. But now he wants to say the rules are clear. And then, at the exact same time, when in front of them, doesn't give proper answers nor gives proper answers after the fact. U.S. lawmakers say the SEC was yet to provide adequate responses. And this is an abomination to innovation. The Crypto Council for Innovation is also calling out the SEC, as it feels like warning shots are being fired in every direction towards Gary Gensler. They stated that SEC's failure to respond to Coinbase's petition for rulemaking is causing tangible harm to a major U.S. industry. Regulation by enforcement thwarts meaningful participation in agency decision-making, deprives market participants of fair notice, and chills innovation and investment in digital assets. Unless companies can rely on clear, consistent guidance, digital assets won't reach their full potential in the US. And here, we see the Crypto Council for Innovation use a lot of language similar to what Garlinghouse has used in the past. Far from protecting investors, it exposes them to increased risk by pushing good and responsible actors out of the market, creating a vacuum to be filled by those least concerned with compliance, and as a result the US risks losing influence over defining the standards, not to mention the national security implications if the next wave of global financial infrastructure evolves outside of US borders. And that's really what's so important. The United States is falling behind, and cities like Dubai are taking advantage. We've seen major news of Ripple's office in Dubai coming into place. And it's because the United States has been asleep at the wheel. We cannot allow this to happen without a fight. And even the CFTC is calling out the SEC, stating they believe the majority of digital assets are in fact commodities. And I love to see the shit throwing at the highest levels of politics, because the shit throwing will end in inevitable clarity. I'm excited to see that we're finally being discussed. And out of the other side of this will come clarity and a digital asset explosion unlike anything else.
Personalized approach, because nearly 70% of digital commodities traded today have already been deemed commodities by the CFTC as a body, as opposed to any chairman, commissioner, or staff. And so I think we need to be thoughtful about which products are commodities and should be treated as commodities, just like oil or soybeans or interest rates.
Now, guys, keep that in your minds as we pivot our attention from the regulatory front to an interesting observation made by Crypto Insights UK. Balaji was formerly at Coinbase and famously made the massive Bitcoin price prediction in just 3 months because he believed hyperinflation was going to take place. Here, he mentions jurisdictions using crypto, specifically Palau, but doesn't mention XRP. He has his ears to the streets and he's very intelligent. So why not mention Ripple and XRP? It's something to think about. But please take a listen to this.
But there's a lot of places in the world that are pro-crypto that you might not know about, like small countries like Palau. So if there's one thing to do that you might not be doing, it is find jurisdictions like El Salvador, find jurisdictions like Palau, find places where the state is actually supporting the network, do deals with them, maybe even try and do a deal with the sovereign so they have 1% of your company or something like that, so you have an interest in keeping you there locally and seeing you grow. And then you've got state support and you've got, a government in your corner.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, a big reason I brought that up was for you to realize that people cannot mention Ripple and XRP in a positive manner within the crypto industry. They're not allowed to, because in their minds, Ripple and XRP stand against everything crypto was made to solve. It's a delusional mindset to have that I think ultimately will get a lot of people wrecked. Now, this is from Whale Wire, showing that the US government just sold 9.8 thousand Bitcoin, worth $277 million, causing the price to plunge, and this happened a couple days ago. The United States government still owns over 200,000 Bitcoin from Silk Road, and if they decide to sell that, prices would be back under 10K in a heartbeat. This is the fact of the matter. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason I've never been a big fan of Bitcoin is because Bitcoin is more centralized than the maxis want to give credit for. It is subject to 51% attacks. It is very slow. The congestion on the network right now is unbelievable due to a recent update that they just had. And something I have to stress is that was never meant to be a currency. It has failed to become one. But ironically enough, Crypto Eddie points out that one of the fastest ways you can send Bitcoin is actually on the XRP Ledger. The way you can do this is through Spend the Bits. And in my opinion, it's one of the most important XRP use cases that exist. The maxis don't want to let you know this, but some of the fastest Bitcoin transactions on the planet happen on the XRP Ledger.
You are about to learn 2 ways you can send Bitcoin where you won't get stuck in the congestion, you won't have outrageous fees, and it all happens in about 3 to 5 seconds. Let's say you live in El Salvador and you want to pull out some cash of the ATM, so you want to do it spending your Bitcoin. You could use the QR code, scan it from your smartphone, insert the amount you want to withdraw, and without even touching the Bitcoin layer, it's done in 3 to 5 seconds. So you're saying to yourself, yeah, I'm not exactly sure about this. Well, let me show you a live demo. For the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to use a wallet that is Mr. Bradley Hoggs. He wants to send a payment to somebody who would like to receive US dollars, But Mr. Bradley Hoggs would like to use his Bitcoin. So he first goes under the deposit and receive and clicks on Pay Now. He then hits US dollar. His recipient is using a Ripple pay string. That's a single ID for anyone needing to send and receive money, a universal payment identifier. It's an open source solution that was launched in 2020. Very convenient. So he decides to send then the 20 US dollars, enters in the pay string address identifier. Now remember, the recipient will receive US dollars, but here Mr. Hoggs has 5 currencies to choose from to pay. He selects Bitcoin. That happens to be 0.00073474 BTC. That's what will be sent, but it will arrive in US dollars. He confirms the transaction with the PIN. He's then thanked that the payment was initiated. A message that the transfer was processed appears, and now we can see the status is successful. We check the transaction on the XRP Ledger testnet, and voila! It cost just 0.00001 XRP to transact with Bitcoin. What app can do this? That would be Spend the Bits, powered by the XRP Ledger.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about all of you, but to me, that seems like superior technology and an unbelievably powerful use case. Keep that in mind, as all the XRP FUD will continue. Don't get dissuaded from this digital asset, because most of the people that talk about it in a negative light are absolutely wrong. Now guys, to cap off this video for today, we're going to take a look at the macro, as here we see from Finance a Lot, Joe Biden needs to crash the economy, and he needs this economic crash to happen now so that it can be recovering into the 2024 elections. There is no incentive for him to postpone it. A failure of government to extend the debt ceiling plus a May 18th SEC ban on short selling would crash markets exactly like the SEC ban on September 18th, 2008. Now, I don't think this is accurate. This is something to keep in the back of your minds, as I do think this economic crash will happen September, October. We are in the financial crisis window, and to be honest, despite my projections, things can happen at any given moment. And trust me when I say, there are political motivations to get this done. We need to have a crisis so they could bring on their problem reaction solution like scenario. Boom, problem, financial crisis that they caused. Reaction, everyone's afraid. Everyone's money's gone. The banking system is paused. Pandemonium everywhere. Potential bank runs and bail-ins. Solution, Ripple XRP's on-demand liquidity. CBDCs. And the leap into the quantum financial system. You don't believe it, it's still true. The revolution of finance has always been planned, and the timeline has always been predetermined. I can't stress this enough. They're not just going to randomly allow the financial system to implode without having a way to do so. And if you believe they do that, you are naive. Now guys, please listen to this clip, which emphasizes the similarities we're having right now with 2008. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Bearable Bull here. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. Now I'll be back tomorrow with another video.
The S&P is of greater concern to you than the Dow. At 8%, we are now in the range of one of the top 10 losses on a percentage basis in the history of traded markets. So this is very serious. Now, all of this is to say, Rick, that the markets are are not, in fact, the story here today. The stock market can continue to make money trade up or down. We're back in that minus 700 territory now. The issue here is credit markets are frozen. And credit markets are where the companies that you work for get their short-term money in order to meet operating expenses, including rent and, in some cases, payroll. We are now at the highest point there, 724. That was the biggest loss we've seen today. That is, we are now in historic territory. When credit markets free up, we are not able, some companies may not be able to make their payroll. They may have to shut down a shift at a plant. That means people will lose their jobs. More people will lose their homes. People will have difficulty getting loans. So honestly, Rick, from a financial perspective, this is not a day to dig in on principles. It is reflective of a fundamental lack of understanding on Congress about financial markets, and I understand that, and I understand why there would be a fundamental lack of understanding amongst Americans, because we've never had to deal with this before. We've never understood how financial markets work and how credit markets work. But this, I cannot underscore enough, Rick, how serious an issue this is. For those of you at home, there's no need to panic, because there's nothing you can do about this right now. But for those who have the power to do something about this right now, understand that time is of the essence. The credit markets, the ones that your employers use to borrow money from banks and from other companies, are shut down. They are frozen. There is not money flowing between banks and between companies right now.
Well, there's a political side to this and there's an economic side to this. Ali, stand by. I think we're going to have Christine Romans in a minute. We've got reaction coming in from many of the people who are now watching this newscast, thousands and thousands of them. Many of them are quite angry, as you might expect, on both parties, apparently. Look at this. This is from Shock. Let's go ahead and take that. Let's go to our Twitter board. Pelosi was foolish to gloat about a deal not voted on yet, but the GOP is still trying to blame her for their failure. It's ridiculous. Riddle and Chick 23. There were a number of Republicans in support of the package. They're just looking for a scapegoat.
Why do I hold XRP? Because Ripple's the chosen one to lead the new global digital payment system, and they use XRP. In 2013, the Federal Reserve began looking for faster payments options. 2 years later, an action plan was born and a federal payments task force was created. It included one company focused on crypto, Ripple. In 2014, the World Bank and Better Than Cash Alliance, which includes the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Clinton Global Initiative, and the governments of 32 countries, put out a report called The Opportunities of Digitizing Payments. 1 year later, the Better Than Cash Alliance featured one crypto company on their website, Ripple. Today, Better Than Cash Alliance and all other UN initiatives are focused on a single agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. You can see the SDGs logo on Bill Gates' lapel, world-leading companies, the Better Than Cash Alliance website, and on the UN's official exchange, Exchange. What crypto is Exchange officially utilizing for their carbon credit solution? XRP. The world will move to a new international standard for exchanging electronic messages between financial institutions by 2025 called ISO 20022. Who was the first ISO 20022 member focused on distributed ledger technology? Ripple. Who's partnered with over 300 financial institutions, including Bank of America, American Express, PNC, Santander, SBI, HSBC, Standard Chartered Bank, Bank of England, India, Singapore, Scotland, Australia, and Indonesia, the largest banks in Japan, Canada, Egypt, the Middle East, United Arab Emirates, Thailand, Morocco, Bhutan, South Korea, Brazil, and Latin America? Ripple. Who is a former employee overseeing the Federal Reserve? Ripple. A former employee overseeing the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock's digital asset division? Ripple. Leading Australia's CBDC effort? Ripple. Who hired a former Treasury of the United States? Ripple. 2 former Federal Reserve attorneys to their board? Ripple. 2 former Clinton and Obama advisors? Former Minister of Defense and Economics of Germany? Former business director at Swift? Former Swift board member? Former CFO of PayPal? Former head of the DTCC? Former chief business officer at Uber? Former VP of Amazon and former SEC chair on their legal team? Ripple. Who's a member of the Digital Pound Foundation, Digital Dollar Project, Digital Euro Association, Mojaloop, IMF's high-level advisory board on fintech, Hyperledger Blockchain Consortium, Open Payments Coalition, Faster Payments Council, Global Payments Steering Group, Cross-Border Working Group, International Association for Trusted Blockchain Applications, Crypto Climate Accord, University Blockchain Initiative, World Wide Web Consortium, and a featured partner of the World Economic Forum with 3 members of their team directly listed on the WF website? Ripple. Now, does Ripple and XRP sound like they're going to disappear, or do they sound like they're part of a much bigger plan? You decide.